Good morning, everyone. Today we will see the third problem of root locus concept. And you can see the problem that sketch the root locus of a unity feedback system with open loop transfer function. So g of s is equal to k into s plus 9 by s into s square plus 4s plus 11. So here we need to sketch the root locus only. So we have to do the first 6 steps of a root locus. And this given system is unity feedback system, and the open loop transfer function is this one. So for plotting the root locus, initially we need to calculate the poles and zeros of the open loop transfer function. So this is the open loop transfer function. So our step one is to locate the poles and zeros, or we need to determine, or we need to calculate the poles and zeros of the open loop transfer function. So for this open loop transfer function, you can see we have a numerator polynomial. So only one s power 1 is there. That means only a single zero will come. So s plus 9 is equal to 0. That means s will be minus 9. So the zero of the given open loop transfer function is minus 9. So the zero is a minus 9. Okay. And coming to the denominator, to calculate the poles, we will use the denominator polynomial, right? So coming to the denominator, you can see here in the denominator, here s is there, which means s plus 0, or simply s is equal to 0 is one pole. So s is equal to 0 is one pole, and the other polynomial is s square plus 4s plus 11. So this is a quadratic equation. So we can calculate the poles using this quadratic equation with the help of an equation that minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac by 2a. So using this expression, if we solve uh, this quadratic equation with this equation, then we will get the roots, two roots, that is minus 2 plus or minus j 2.64. So we have got a total 3 roots now, because here the maximum s power is 3, s into s square, right? So that means s cube. S cube means the order of the system is 3. S cube means the number of poles of this denominator of this open loop transfer function is 3. So here we got 3 poles, namely p1 as 0, p2 as minus 2 plus 2.64j, p3 as minus 2 minus 2.64j. So 3 poles, and we have also got 1 0, and that 0 is minus 9. Now what we should do, we have completed our step 1. Now the second step is we need to plot, or we need to sketch the root locus on the real axis. We need to sketch the root locus on the real axis. So we have number of poles and zeros, 3 poles and 1 0. So place these poles and zeros on the s plane. So on the s plane, so take the x-axis as the real value or the real axis, y-axis as the imaginary axis. Take the linear graph and draw xy coordinates. The x coordinate, which is the real value. So this is positive real value, and this is minus real value, negative real value. And here this is positive j. J means imaginary, and this is negative j. Now you can place the pole p1 is equal to 0, which is at origin. So mark cross. So take a cross. Of course, you can take the scale 1, 2, 3, like that. Here in the negative side, minus 1, minus 2, etc. And here plus 1j and plus 2j, like that. Take the equal amount of scale on the x-axis and as well as the y-axis. So in the negative side also, please take in the same way and mark P1, P2, P3 and Z1. So here we have two complex poles. So mark P1, P2, P3 and Z1 on the graph. Everyone, please mark. So you can see here the first pole P1 is at the origin. You can see the first pole which is at the origin. This one is the first pole, and the second pole which is a complex pole, and the third pole is also a complex pole. So these three poles are marked, and we need to mark the zero also. So you can see we have the zero value as -9. At -9 you can see the zero is marked with a small circle. Poles will be marked by cross symbol and zero is marked by small circle or zero, right? So we have marked according to our step 1. Now we need to draw the root locus with the help of step 2. So the root locus can be drawn based on few rules on the real axis. So the root locus will be started at P1 or a pole, at a pole, and ends at a 0, right? That is only on the real axis. So we have one pole on the real axis, 1 0 on the real axis. So you can see, so you can draw the root locus from this pole P1 to 0 Z1. So take the scale and draw a thick line along x-axis like this. The thick line has to be visible. So draw a thick line along the x-axis from pole P1 to 0 Z1. Because we have a pole and we have a 0, so the root locus will start from pole P1 and ends at 0 Z1. So we have plotted that. So that is our step number 2, right? Now, and there are not many poles on the x-axis, only one pole is there, so that's why only one root locus curve has been drawn on the real axis, and which starts at P1 and ends at Z1. So that is our step number 2. Coming to our step number 3, we need to calculate the angle of asymptotes as well as the meeting point of asymptotes, simply centroid. So we need to calculate angle of asymptotes and centroid. So for angle of asymptotes, we know the formula, which is plus or minus 180 degree into 2q plus 1 by n minus m. So n is the number of poles. Here the number of poles are 3, P1, P2, P3. And m is the number of zeros. So we have a 0 here. In the previous two problems, we have done without any 0. In those problems, we don't have any zeros, but this problem have a 0. So the m value is 1. So here m minus m means 3 minus 1, which is 2 in the denominator. Okay, so the q value will be from 0 to n minus m. That means 0 to 2. N minus m value is 2, right? So we have only 3 cases. When q is equal to 0, when q is equal to 1, when q is equal to 2, we need to calculate the angle of asymptotes. Now substitute q is equal to 0 here, then we will have plus or minus 180. This will be 0 into 1. So plus or minus 180 will be there in the numerator, and in the denominator it is 2. So in 182 will be cancelled out, and we will get plus or minus 90 degrees. When we use q value as 0, we will get plus or minus 90 degree. And now second case, use q as 1. Now substitute q as 1. So we'll get 2 into 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. So 3 into 180 by what we get? 2, because in the denominator it is 2. So these 2 will be cancelled in 180 as 90. So 90 into here 3 is there. So 9 3s 27 and means 270 degree. 270 degree is nothing but a minus or plus 90 degree, because 360 minus 90 we will get 270, right? So that's why this 270 degree can also be written as minus or plus 90 degree. So when k is 1, we will get minus plus 90 degree as the angle of asymptote. And when q is 2, now substitute q is 2. So 2 into 2, 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. So here 180 by 2, so we will get 90. 90 into 5, 95 means 450 degrees. 450 degree means we can write 360 plus 90. 360 plus 90 is 450. So again we will get plus or minus 90. So in each and every case, when q is 0, 1 and 2, we have got only two angles, that is plus 90 and minus 90. Remaining all are same. In each case, we have got plus 90 or minus 90. Only two angles we have got. That's it. Now we need to calculate the centroid to draw this angle of asymptotes. So to calculate the centroid, we know the sum of poles minus sum of zeros by n minus m. We know this formula. We know the sum of poles. The poles are given as 0 minus 2 plus 2.64j minus 2 minus 2.64j. So we have a 0 also. Only one 0 is there. That 0 is minus 9, right? So this minus and this plus will get cancelled. And here you can see minus 2 and minus 2. So minus 4, these two, if we add these two, we will get minus 4. And you can see minus of minus will get plus. So minus 4 plus 9 will be there in the numerator. That means 9 minus 4, which we will get 5. So numerator we will have the value 5, and in the denominator it is 2. So 5 by 2, you will get 2.5 as the centroid. So the centroid is at 2.5, which is a positive value. So right half of the S-plane, this one, because we have got 2.5, right? So right half of the S-plane, mark the centroid as a dot here because it is 2.5. So mark centroid as a dot and present is a centroid. And we need to plot angle of asymptotes from the centroid, which are plus 90 or minus 90. That's it, only two angles. So plus 90, take a protractor, draw a dotted line for plus 90. This is for plus 90. And if we go downwards, this is for minus 90. So angle of asymptotes always will be drawn in the dotted line only. So at the point of centroid, draw angle of asymptotes. So two angles has been drawn here. Okay. Right. So we have got the angle of asymptotes. We have got the centroid and we have drawn the angles. This is our step number 3. Now coming to the step number 4. What is the step number 4? To find the breakaway and break-in points. So we know the procedure to do the breakaway and break-in points, right? So generally the breakaway point will come between two poles, and the break-in point will come between two zeros. So here only one zero is there. So that means there is no chance of getting a break-in point. And here only one real pole is there. And the root locus on the real axis is existed between one pole and one zero. That's it. In the first problem, we have calculated, we have tried to calculate the breakaway point. Because the root locus on the first problem starts at the origin and ends at the minus infinity. because there is no zero at that system. So for that case, there is a chance of getting breakaway point. But here, the breakaway point can be drawn between two poles only. The root locus is limited between a pole and zero. There are no two poles, there are no two zeros. So indirectly, we can say that there is no chance of getting any breakaway and any break-in points. According to the poles and zeros knowledge, breakaway point will come between two poles. Break-in point will come between two zeros. But here there is a single pole on the real axis, a single zero on the real axis. However, the root locus on the real axis is laid between these two only. So between these two, we cannot get any point because a breakaway will comes between two poles. Break-in can come between two zeros. But here a zero is there, a pole is there. So there is no chance of getting any breakaway or break-in points. So like this we can write. Otherwise, if you want to test, we can calculate. You know the procedure how to calculate the break-even and break-in points. We need to take the closed loop transfer function and we need to calculate the characteristic equation of that closed loop transfer function and write the equation for k and differentiate the k with respect to s and calculate the s roots and substitute the s roots in the k value and get the k whether it is positive or real. Positive and real. It has to be positive and real, then only we will get breakaway as well as break-in points for the all s values. Okay, so use this procedure and calculate. You will get you won't get any breakaway and break-in. Okay, so that is our first step 4. Directly we can say, based on the knowledge of poles and zeros, that placement and all, that there is no scope of having a break. Okay, and coming to the step 5, the step 5 can be calculated with the help of angle of departures and angle of asymptotes. Angle of departure and angle of arrival can be calculated with the help of complex poles and complex zeros. So here there are no complex zeros. That's why there is no angle of arrival. We have complex poles. That's why we can calculate angle of departure. Angle of departure will be calculated for the complex poles, right? So we are having two poles, P2 and P3. So P2 is a complex pole and P3 is also a complex pole, which are conjugate also, not only complex, right? So to calculate the angle of departure, we have a equation that is 180 degrees minus sum of angles of the poles plus sum of angles of the zero. Actually, this is a generalized formula. In the previous problems, we don't have any zero. That's why this theta 3 is not there. Only theta 1, theta 2. We have subtracted 180 minus theta 1 and theta 2. That's it in the previous problem. So this is the generalized principle that 180 degrees minus angles of poles to that complex pole plus angles of zero to that complex pole. So how these angles can be calculated? Look at, now I am calculating the angle of departure at P2. So P2 is my pole. Now what we do, simply draw a line from all the poles and zeros. See, from P1 to P2, draw a line and use protractor to check this angle. Use protractor and calculate this theta 1. And similarly, so P1 is completed. P2, at P2 we are calculating. So P3. So at P3 you can also see this P3 is mirror image of P2. That means the angle will be, if you draw a line, which is a straight line, and this angle will be theta 2 and this theta 2. What is this theta 2? Theta 2 is the angle between P2 to P3, which is 90 degree. Because these two are mirror images, so we can draw a straight line and we will get theta 2 as 90. So we have used all the poles. And similarly, we have a 0. So using that 0 also, we need to draw a straight line and get this angle theta, right? So we have, except P2, we have three places, 2 poles and 1 0. So we will get theta 1, theta 2, and theta 3. So according to our formula, two angles are belongs to poles. So these two angles will be subtracted from 180, and the angle at 0 will be added to 180, right? So theta 1, you use the protractor and calculate the theta 1, which you will get approximately 127.1 degree. You can do it with protractor. And second angle, of course, it is obviously 90, because this is right angle triangle, because mirror image of the P2, so you'll get 90. And similarly, you can calculate theta 3. Theta 3 will be around 20.7 degree approximately. So these are the approximate values. You will also get almost all these values when you use protractor on the graph sheet. Okay, and then substitute these values and simplify. You'll get minus 16.4 degree as the angle of departure at pole P2. In the same way, we can calculate for pole P3 also, but we can directly write. Don't do all this uh, simplification. Simply, you can see pole P2 and pole P3 both are complex conjugate. That means if the P2 angle is minus 16.4, then P3 angle will be plus 16.4, because mirror image of P2 is P3, right? So mirror image of minus 16.4 will be plus 16.4 degree. That's it. So we have done the angle of departure calculations at P2 and P3. So this is our step 5. Okay, you can clearly see. And using the protractor, we can measure these angles, no problem. Otherwise, if you want to calculate these angles, you know the right angle triangle concept, you know this length, you know this length, and you will get this angle. And similarly, you know this length, you know this length, and you know this length, and you can calculate this angle, and similarly this angle also. So you can use that type of formula to calculate theta 1, theta 2, and theta 3, or you can directly use the protractor and mark the angles and use them. You can do any. Okay, so this is step 5. Now we need to calculate the step 6, that is we need to determine the crossing point on the imaginary axis, and we need to calculate the gain value k. So the k value has to be calculated. So in order to do this, we need a closed loop characteristic, sorry, a closed loop transfer function. From the closed loop transfer function, we have characteristic equation. So if we have done the step 4, then from step 4 we can directly use the characteristic equation. But here we don't have, we have not done step 4 because of our knowledge and all. We directly wrote a sentence about the step 4. So that's why here the characteristic equation has been calculated uh, based on the closed loop transfer function. So from this closed loop transfer function, the characteristic equation has been calculated like this. So what we should do to calculate the crossing point? Simply omega. We simply substitute j omega in the place of s. So in this equation, wherever you see the s, substitute j omega. So After substituting and simplifying, we will get this type of equation. In this type of equation, we have imaginary terms and real terms. So what we do is equate all the imaginary terms to 0 to calculate omega value. So by equating all the imaginary terms to 0, we will get the omega is 11 plus k. Here we don't know the value k. Here we don't know the value k. Okay, so in the previous problems, we have directly calculated omega value because there is no uh, uh, equation of omega in terms of k. So simply we have calculated the omega. But here we have struck that the omega square is equal to 11 plus k. Okay, stop here and equate the real part to 0 and calculate the value for k, and you will get 9k is equal to 4 omega square. So the k value can be determined by 4 by 9 omega square. We don't know k, we don't know omega, but we have two unknowns and two equations. So so k is equal to 4 omega square by 9, right? So substitute this here and get the value of k, or use this omega square equation and substitute here to get the value of k. We have omega square, right? So 11 plus k, bring that here. So 9k is equal to 4 into omega square, right? So omega square is nothing but 11 plus k. Substitute here and you will have 44 plus 4k is 9k. So simplify it, you'll get k value as 8.8. So we have got the k value. Now substitute this k value here. So 11 plus 8.8, we will get a 19.8 as omega square. So we will get the omega value as plus or minus 4.4. So this is the crossing point on the imaginary axis. Imaginary axis means a J point. So you can see our root locus curve has to be crossed on the imaginary axis at J 4.4 and minus 4.4J. Okay. And at P2 and P3, we have got the angle of asymptotes, sorry, angle of departure. Angle of departure at P2 is minus 16.4 degree and P3 is plus 16.4 degree. So use the protractor and draw a small line with a minus 16.4 at P2 and draw a small line with plus 16.4 at P3. And take pencil and draw the smooth curve that this curve has to cross 4.4J and minus 4.4J on the imaginary axis. So start a curve at P2 and draw the smooth curve like this, and similarly from P3 also draw a smooth curve like this with the free hands only. Don't use any scales and all. This has to look like a curve. Okay, so this is how we can plot the root locus for the given problem. You can see this is the root locus curve on the real axis, and these two are the root locus curves on the imaginary axis. This is how we can sketch the root locus for any given problem. Okay, thank you.